Hello, 412 Sports Cards here today, back with another video, and today we're going to be making a tier list of the kind of a power rankings, in my opinion, of all the teams that didn't make the playoffs last year based upon some of their off-season moves. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So we'll start here with the Eastern Conference. We'll take a look at the Wizards. The Wizards, as you know, big news, at the time I'm filming this last night, of Russ getting traded to the Wizards in exchange for John Wall and a first-round pick. At first, I thought the Wizards would honestly be quite bad. But, if you look at their roster, they're pretty decent. They're not very deep at all, but Russ, Beal, Bertans, Rui, Bryant starting. Floor spacing could be an issue with Rui and Russ not being able to really shoot at all, but Bertans is an exceptional shooter, and Beal can create pretty well for himself. So they could be pretty good. We'll give them B for now. Might upgrade them here later. Charlotte Hornets next. Obviously, LaMelo Ball getting drafted, big news. So we're looking at a team with LaMelo, Devontae Graham, Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, PJ, Miles Bridges. Who plays at center on that team? I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not really that important though. I don't know. This might be a little low in some people's estimations, but I'm gonna give them, I don't know, I guess maybe B, C. I don't think they're that good. I'm worried about how LaMelo will do in the NBA. I think he may have been overhyped. I don't think Gordon Hayward is worth anywhere near the $30 million he was given. So that's kind of my takes on that. And you guys can kind of do with this information what you will. The hope is that it can kind of inform some of your collecting and investing desires. Give you a sense of where I think these teams are headed. But the Hornets were at least active in free agency, which is always good. Chicago Bulls, we'll move the Wizards up to A. I think they're substantially better than the Hornets. The Bulls have done very little. They got Robert Williams in the draft, who, went higher than a lot of people thought, but people were very pleased with him. I don't know. They got a new coach. I think it's Billy Donovan. I'll give them A. I'm hoping the hope is kind of that the new coach can turn the situation around for them. But this is a team that really, really has struggled in the past, but they've got talent. The problem is you've got Zach LaVine and Kobe White, both of who like to be on the ball. I don't know, maybe one of them ends up getting moved, but you got Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Otto Porter, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter. I really think Wendell Carter could take a big step this year. That's kind of a play, I guess, I would give for cards on that team, especially if they perform better than expected. I think his cards could see a rise. I think he was grossly misused under Jim Boylan. But Knicks, oof. It's bad. C. I can't say a D tier because, it could be worse. They could have less talent, but Obi Toppin should create some offense for them. Their big draft pick this year. Other than that, they didn't really do a ton. They picked up some role players like Austin Rivers and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist to play some defense, tighten up the defense a little bit. But R.J. Barrett, it could be a tough time. I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure Obi Toppin is not a good shooter, and they don't really have a lot of shooting, and I feel like it's this floor spacing is going to get clogged up. Mitchell Robinson only operates in the paint. He can't stretch the floor. You got guys like Julius Randle on the squad? I don't know. I don't see a big year for RJ. I feel like he could be good on a different team, but the Knicks are just a dumpster fire. The Detroit Pistons, yeah, this is bad. They might be the worst team in the East, in my opinion. You've got guys like Blake Griffin, Derrick Rose, who, are okay. Derrick Rose, we all know, past his prime. Blake Griffin's fine, but I don't know. He can't carry a team. Christian Wood and Jeremy Grant were their big free agent signings. Decent players. I don't know. I feel like both of them got a good amount of money, and none of them are particularly amazing. But I guess the hope, honestly, for the Pistons is that you just can develop Sekou. I mean, he could be good in the future. He's really young. He's got about as much potential as anybody. But I don't think he's ready to carry a team right now. And they do not have a lot of high-end talent, nor are they deep. I think they're the worst team in the East. They could honestly be the worst team in the league. This is the first S tier. The Atlanta Hawks. Absurd how much they've done in the offseason. So let's think. So they got Bogdanovich, Gallinari, they got Rondo, they got Chris Dunn. I'm trying to think who they've got. They got Capella late in last year, but look at the roster. So point guard, you got Trae Young, Chris Dunn, and Rajon Rondo. I think Rondo will be great for mentoring Trae. Chris Dunn brings some top-tier defense at the point guard position. I think that's going to be huge for situational substitutions late in games. Trae Young's defense is atrocious, and I think Chris Dunn could be used for quick substitutions to play a little defense, really help the team. And I think that the team's success should really bolster prices of the rookies or the young guys on this team. So if you think about it, the shooting is excellent. So you have Trae Young, Bogdanovich, Gallinari, John Collins all can shoot the three very well. And then you have Clint Capella who can't, but honestly, that's okay. If you got 4 of the 5 who can. And then that means you can have guys like Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter and Kevin Huerter coming off the bench, and I think that'll give them a chance to really develop. I think Hawks look great for now and for the future, so I'm very excited about them. Cleveland Cavaliers are kind of interesting. So you've got Darius Garland and Dylan Windler, who were both first-round picks from last year, never played because of injury, coming back. Garland was a top 5 pick. I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about him, a ton of what he's capable of, but they do have some guys who are returning. I'll put them in D tier here with the Pistons. I think they're the 2 worst teams in the league, or in the conference, but they're better than the Pistons in my opinion. But if you look at the roster, there's nobody at all who you can count on for a bucket. Colin Sexton, people thought that he'd be a good bucket getter, but he's fine. He's had a lot of troubles. So you got him, and then you got Kevin Porter Jr., who's had some trouble with the law recently, and then Andre Drummond is a good player, but he's not playing at a guard position. And Windler and Garland are just kind of flyers, and you're hoping for something from them, but I don't know. I wouldn't count on a lot. I think it's also a bad place to be putting money if you're for card plays, just because I think that team is so uncertain. Even if those guys like Windler and Garland have talent, it's just not a very good team to showcase it. On to the Western Conference, Memphis Grizzlies, usual suspects back. Grizzlies did almost nothing in the offseason, except trade up in the draft. They got Desmond Bane, I think, with the 30th pick. It was the Celtics pick. I'm pretty sure the Celtics had that pick. But anyways, he'll probably play backup shooting guard to Dylan Brooks. I don't know. He's a great three-point shooter. He should create shooting from the wing positions. And honestly, that's been the thorn in the side of the Memphis Grizzlies. Last year, they could not score from the 2 and the 3 positions very well at all. Hopefully, Desmond Bane develops into something good, but as of now, I don't think he's enough to push the Grizzlies into the S tier, even with the development and progression of Brandon Clark, Ja, and Jaren, who's injured right now. But I think they could be very good in the future, but I don't know. The 2 and 3 guard positions are too weak. They don't have enough shot creating ability or even just shooting ability there to carry the team forward. Phoenix Suns, big news was Chris Paul coming in on that trade to the Thunder. So they gave up Rubio, Oubre, and I think Aaron Baines went in that deal too. Aaron Baines, honestly, I think was a decent player for them. In the bubble, he was raining threes. But I think people are honestly too hot on the Suns. You can't not put them in at least the A tier just because they do have a lot of talent. But I don't know. I don't think they move into that S tier. I think they gave up a decent amount for for Chris Paul, and I'm just a little hesitant with Chris Paul. I mean, he is certainly older, and not all these players who age are LeBron, where they just it's a very, very slow decline. Sometimes these players, when they get older, just fall off a cliff, and I mean, he's much older than he used to be, and I'm very worried about that. He's getting a ton of money. I don't see it for the Phoenix Suns. I know card people are going crazy for like Devin Booker and stuff, but not my thing. San Antonio Spurs, oof. I mean, I suppose I'll call it. We'll call it C. So you've got DeMar DeRozan on an expiring deal, Aldridge on an expiring deal. Then you got like DeJounte Murray, Derek White, maybe Jakob Poeltl. I mean, so DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge are both good talents, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if either one of them was traded at the deadline on the. I mean, expiring money. They could be decent trade chips, but the team has a lot of work to do. They didn't make any off-season moves hardly at all. They're just not a very exciting team. I think DeJounte Murray hasn't lived up to what you'd expect of him. I wouldn't really be putting my money in any of those players on that team. It seems like a very uncertain situation moving forward. Sacramento Kings kind of the same boat. I mean, De'Aaron Fox just got max money. I think that a lot of this team's success hinges on Marvin Bagley improving. I think that the hope of Marvin Bagley coming back and not having injury gives them enough glimmer of promise to maybe be in the B tier, but it's a tough road. I mean, so outside of Marvin Bagley, De'Aaron Fox, and Buddy Hield, there's not a ton there. I mean, they do have Hassan Whiteside, so the starting five will be decent, but I just don't see high-end upside, and I feel like if Bagley gets hurt, they could be quite bad. New Orleans Pelicans, this might be bold, but I'll toss them in the S tier. This is a bold play. I think a full year from Zion is going to be huge for them. They didn't have that last year. So, I mean, we're talking about... So, they lost Drew Holiday and Derek Favors, but they got back Steven Adams. They got Bledsoe, Kira Lewis, Zion, B.I., Lonzo. So, I mean, we're looking at what? So, the lineup could be Lonzo with Brandon Ingram and Zion. Or maybe Bledsoe starts. You could have Bledsoe, Lonzo, Zion, B.I., and Steven Adams. I mean, that's a pretty good starting five. They've got some good players off the bench. They've got a ton of assets. I feel like they could make moves if they felt like it. There's certainly no rush to. But, I don't know. As much as I don't think Zion is a great long-term investment in the card market, I do think that a full season from him could be a big deal for this team. I think that he could really carry the team, and I think a full season with all those players meshing together, I mean, B.I. is quite good. I think they could be a very good team. T-Wolves, oof. You can't put them in D tier just because they have so much talent, but I don't see materially what's different than last year's. They've got D'Angelo Russell, okay, and they've got Cat, both excellent players. I'm not that high on Anthony Edwards, I'm going to be honest. I know a lot of people are concerned about his work ethic, about his devotion to the game. I mean, we'll see how that stuff goes. I guess the hope is that Jarrett Culver turns it around a little bit, but they're not deep at all. And despite having great pieces in Cat and D'Lo, they didn't do a ton with it last year. I mean, granted, they didn't have D'Lo the whole time. They had Andrew Wiggins a lot of the time, but I just don't see a way ahead. And finally, Warriors. Before Clay got injured, they were a clear S tier. I think I've got to give it to them anyways. I mean, if you look at the teams that are left, the teams that are in this tier list, I think they're probably the best team. They got Wiseman and Oubre, and they obviously lost Klay Thompson. So, I mean, you're looking at starting, so they'll be rolling out Steph, Oubre, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond, and James Wiseman. I think that's a really good starting five. Depth could be an issue, but I think people have been sleeping on how great Steph Curry is. I think even without Clay, he can still do a lot of damage, and the Warriors will be good this year. Don't forget you got guys like Eric Pascal coming off the bench, who honestly could be big impact players. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this, kind of just a recap of where I think these teams that missed the playoffs stand after the off season. The big people I had moving up the rankings, I think that maybe are a lot higher than others. I think the Pelicans is my biggest team that I'm high on. Probably the T-Wolves are the team that I'm the lowest on that other people wouldn't be. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed these insights. Use them to kind of think about your card picks for the season coming ahead. And if you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.